My name is Emily Grace. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Portland, Oregon. Before that day, my life was beautifully ordinary, the kind of life most people would call normal. I worked as a nurse in a local hospital, married to Daniel, a high school teacher, and together we were raising our 7-year-old daughter, Lily. Every morning started the same way, the smell of coffee, the hum of the city waking up, and Lily's laughter echoing down the hallway. I was always rushing to work, rushing home, rushing to do everything perfectly. I believed in God, but somewhere along the way, my faith had become quiet. I prayed, but mostly when I needed something. Deep inside, I felt something was missing, like I was alive, yet not truly awake. At night, when the house went silent, I sometimes stared at the ceiling and whispered, "God, am I doing what you want me to do, or am I just existing?" There was a restlessness in my soul I couldn't explain, like a faint knocking on a door I refused to open. I had no idea that door was about to swing wide open, through an experience that would tear my world apart, take me beyond death itself, and bring me face to face with Jesus. That night, before it all happened, I remember sitting with Lily, brushing her hair, and telling her, "Mommy loves you more than the stars." She smiled, not knowing those words would echo in my heart when I left my body hours later. If you had one ordinary moment you wish you could go back to, what would it be? Write it in the comments below. I want to read your heart. In the days leading up to the accident, something strange began to stir inside me. It was subtle at first, a quiet unease, like the feeling you get before a storm. I would wake up in the middle of the night with my heart racing, though there was no sound, no reason. I started dreaming of light, blinding, pure, almost alive, and every time I opened my eyes, I would whisper, "What are you trying to tell me, Lord?" At work, I couldn't focus. I would look at my patients and feel their pain more deeply than ever before. One evening, as I helped an elderly man take his last breath, I suddenly felt a wave of peace surround me. It was as if heaven had brushed against the edge of our world for just a second. Tears filled my eyes, and a thought crossed my mind. Death isn't the end. Still, the feeling of urgency kept growing. I couldn't shake the sense that something big was about to happen, not just in my life, but in the world. Even Daniel noticed my distance. "You've been quiet lately," he said over dinner. I just smiled and said, "I'm fine." But inside, I wasn't fine at all. That night, I sat by the window, watching the rain slide down the glass, and I prayed again. "God, if you're trying to speak, please help me listen." Little did I know, the answer to that prayer would come in the most unexpected and terrifying way, through death itself. Have you ever felt that strange pull, that something was about to change, even if you couldn't explain it? Share your story in the comments below. I read every one of them. The day everything went dark. It was a Friday evening, calm, gray skies, the kind of day that feels ordinary, but hides something extraordinary. I had just finished a long shift at the hospital. My body was tired, my mind even more. I remember texting Daniel, "On my way home, can't wait for your pasta." I smiled, turned the key, and started driving. Halfway across the bridge, the rain began to fall harder. The world outside blurred into streaks of silver. I turned up the wipers, humming to the radio, when suddenly, headlights. Too close, too fast. A truck swerved into my lane. Everything slowed down. I remember the sound, metal twisting, glass shattering, and then silence. Not just silence around me, but inside me. My body went cold, yet I wasn't afraid. It was as if time itself held its breath. In that moment, I felt something pull, gentle, like invisible hands lifting me upward. The pain disappeared. The fear vanished. The rain stopped. I looked down and saw my car crumpled like paper, my body motionless inside it. People were running, shouting, but I couldn't hear them anymore. A strange peace surrounded me, deeper than anything I had ever known. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't imagination. It was the moment I realized I was no longer alive. If everything stopped today, what would be the one thing you'd want to say to the people you love? Write it in the comments. Don't wait until it's too late to speak your heart. Leaving my body, I floated just above the wreckage, weightless, suspended between two worlds. Below me, my body was twisted in the driver's seat, a faint trickle of blood on my forehead. People were shouting, phones were raised, but their voices reached me like whispers from far away. At first, I panicked. That's me. That's my body. How can I be here? But then, something beautiful happened. A soft light appeared around me, like warm sunlight breaking through clouds. I felt no pain, no fear, only a deep, perfect calm. It was as though every worry, every guilt I'd ever carried melted away in that glow. Time didn't exist anymore. The rain had stopped. The air shimmered. I could see everything. The bridge, the cars, even the city lights in the distance, with a clarity that didn't belong to human eyes. And then I heard it. A gentle whisper, not from outside, but within my soul, saying, "You're safe. Come with me." I turned toward the voice, and the light began to open, like a doorway waiting for me to step through. My heart, or what felt like my heart, longed for it. I knew I was leaving this world behind. Have you ever felt a presence or peace so strong it felt like it wasn't from this world? Share your experience in the comments. Your story could touch someone who needs hope right now. The journey through the tunnel of light. The light became brighter, expanding like a sunrise that never ends. It wasn't just light, it was alive. Every particle felt like love, touching me, wrapping me, pulling me deeper. I felt myself moving, though there was no movement. It was more like being drawn forward by a melody too beautiful to resist. Colors swirled, gold, white, soft blue, colors I'd never seen on Earth. There was music too, but not like any music I knew. It was as if every note carried healing, every vibration spoke truth. My soul felt lighter with every second. All my worries, regrets, and fears fell off me like old clothes. As I moved through this tunnel, images of my life flashed. Moments with Lily, laughter with Daniel, even the nights I prayed in silence. Each memory was touched by compassion, not judgment. I realized then, I was being shown not what I had done wrong, but how deeply I was loved, even in my imperfections. Ahead of me stood a figure of blinding light. My heart knew instantly who it was, even before I saw his face. It was him, Jesus, waiting. If you could ask God one question right now, what would it be? Write your question in the comments. Sometimes sharing it is the first step to an answer. The encounter with Jesus. As I drew closer, the light around him grew brighter. So bright that it should have blinded me, but it didn't. Instead, it filled me with warmth, like standing in the center of love itself. His presence was overwhelming, yet gentle. It felt like every wound I had ever carried, physical, emotional, spiritual, was instantly healed just by being near him. When he looked at me, I didn't see judgment. I saw understanding. I saw home. His eyes, they were like oceans, endless, deep, full of both sorrow and mercy. I fell to my knees without even realizing it. There were no words, only tears, not of pain, but of recognition. He spoke my name, Emily. His voice wasn't loud. It was calm, yet it echoed through my entire being. You have walked through life searching, but I have been with you all along. I wanted to stay there forever. Every part of me knew that this was what my soul had always longed for. No fear, no doubt, no time, only love so pure that it burned away everything false. But then his expression changed. The peace in his eyes turned to sorrow. He looked into the distance beyond me and whispered the words that would change everything. They are not ready. The tone in his voice carried both heartbreak and urgency, as if the whole world stood on the edge of something it could not see. What do you think Jesus meant when he said, "They are not ready"? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your words might open someone's heart today. His words, "They are not ready." When Jesus spoke those words, "They are not ready," everything around us shifted. The light dimmed, and I felt a deep vibration through the air, like heaven itself was mourning. His eyes, once radiant with endless compassion, filled with a sadness I can't describe in human words. I wanted to ask, "Who, Lord? Who isn't ready?" But before the question could leave my lips, scenes began to unfold around us, visions that felt more real than anything I had ever seen on Earth. At first I saw our world from above, cities glowing at night, oceans shimmering, people rushing everywhere. Life looked busy, but hollow. Then, the light faded, and a great darkness began to sweep across the planet, swallowing everything in its path. The darkness wasn't just physical. It carried fear, confusion, and despair. I could feel it, the hearts of people trembling, crying out for light that wouldn't come. I heard voices praying, others cursing, and many more, silent. It wasn't punishment, it was a consequence. A world that had forgotten its creator was being shaken awake. I turned toward Jesus, terrified. "Lord, what is happening?" he answered, and his voice echoed like thunder and love all at once. "The time will come when light will be withdrawn for a moment, not to destroy, but to awaken. Many will hide in fear, but those who trust in me will be safe." Then I saw homes, small flickers of light scattered through the darkness. In some houses, candles glowed. Families prayed together, whispering his name, and over them I saw angels standing guard. But outside, shadows moved restlessly, whispering lies into the ears of those who refused to believe. The scene changed again. I saw the earth trembling, fires, floods, storms, not everywhere, but enough to make humanity look up and remember how small we truly are. Jesus lifted his hand, and everything stopped. He looked at me and said, "Tell them to prepare, not with fear, but with faith. The darkness is not forever. It will pass, and when it does, a new dawn will rise. But hearts must return to me before that day." Tears streamed down my face. I felt both the weight of his sorrow and the power of his mercy. He wasn't angry. He was heartbroken. He showed me people running after money, fame, distractions, while their souls starved. I saw churches filled with noise but empty of love. I saw children crying for parents too busy to notice, and yet, he still loved them all. Then he looked at me again. His gaze pierced through my spirit. "Emily, you must go back." My heart broke instantly. "Please, Lord, don't send me back. I want to stay with you." But he shook his head gently. "It is not your time. The message must be shared. Tell them I am real. Tell them my mercy is still open. But time is short. Tell them they are not ready." His words echoed through me like thunder wrapped in love. I tried to speak, to argue, to plead, but suddenly the light began to fade. The warmth started pulling away from me. I reached out, desperate to hold on to him, but all I felt was the rush of wind and the sound of his final words repeating in my soul. "Do not fear the darkness. Fear the emptiness of hearts that no longer seek me." And then, everything went silent again. What do you feel when you hear the words, "They are not ready"? Do you believe the world is preparing or drifting farther away from God? Write your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. Someone might need to read what you feel today. The vision of the 3 days of darkness. As the words, "They are not ready," faded from his voice, the light around us shifted again, not disappearing, but transforming into something deeper, more solemn. Jesus raised his hand, and the scene before me changed once more. What I saw next is forever burned into my soul. The earth appeared below us, suspended in space, a living, breathing creation, radiant in color. Then, slowly, a thick shadow began to move across it. It wasn't the night. It wasn't an eclipse. It was a living darkness, heavy, suffocating, spreading across continents like smoke from an unseen fire. The sun dimmed until it looked like a dying ember. Stars vanished. The world went still. Even the wind seemed to stop. Then came the cries, voices rising from every nation, people stumbling in confusion, fear gripping their hearts. I saw families gathered in homes, lighting candles, whispering prayers. I could feel the fear in their voices, but I also saw faith shining through that fear, like flickers of gold amid a storm. In those houses where prayers rose sincerely, angels stood guard at the doors, their presence radiant and immovable. But beyond those homes, darkness reigned. The streets were empty at first, then filled with shadows. I couldn't see them clearly, but I could feel them, angry, restless, whispering in tongues that chilled my spirit. These were not human voices. Jesus looked at me, and though he did not explain everything, I understood. This darkness was not only physical, it was spiritual. Then, he spoke again, his voice calm and firm. 3 days. The world will be wrapped in darkness for 3 days. During that time, those who have faith must remain within their homes, in prayer and repentance. Windows must be covered. No one must look outside, for the deceiver will walk in forms that seem familiar. I shuddered. Familiar? I asked. He nodded sadly. He will mimic the voices of those you love, knocking at doors, calling by name, pretending to bring comfort. But it will not be them. Do not open. Only faith and my name will protect those who believe. I felt my spirit tremble with both awe and sorrow. Why, Lord? Why must this happen? I asked. His gaze softened. It is not to destroy, but to cleanse. Humanity has filled the air, the earth, and their own hearts with noise, pride, and rebellion. Many have forgotten that I am still God. The darkness will remind them of the light they abandoned. And when it lifts, those who remain will see the dawn of mercy. Then I saw something more. The third day arrived. The first faint ray of light breaking through the horizon. People emerged from their homes, eyes swollen from tears but faces shining with gratitude. The air was pure, silent, holy. It was as if creation itself was exhaling after centuries of holding its breath. The vision faded slowly. I turned back to Jesus, tears streaming down my face. What can I do? How can I warn them? He placed his hand over my heart. The warmth of his touch filled every part of me with a strength I had never known. Tell them not to fear, but to prepare. The time is closer than they think, yet mercy is still open. My light will never abandon those who call upon me. As he spoke, I saw the image of the world again. But this time, pockets of light began to shine in unexpected places. Small churches, humble homes, people kneeling alone in their rooms whispering his name. Hope was still alive. Then, the vision dissolved, and the peace that had once surrounded me began to fade. I knew the next part of my journey was waiting, the return. But before everything vanished, I heard his voice one last time. Emily, be my voice. Tell them that even in the deepest darkness, my light will find them, if only they let it in. If those 3 days came tomorrow, would your heart be ready? Would you hide in fear or pray in faith? Write your answer in the comments below, and let your words be a light for someone else who needs courage tonight. Returning to my body, when the vision of the darkness faded, I stood once more before Jesus. The silence around us was holy, thick with the weight of everything he had just shown me. His eyes still held that same gentleness, but behind it was a quiet authority, as if the entire universe bowed to his will. I didn't want to leave. Every part of me longed to stay in that peace forever. There was no pain, no fear, no sense of time, only love so pure it made me feel like I was seeing for the first time. But then, Jesus spoke again, and his words shattered that perfect stillness. Emily, it is not yet your time. You must return. I shook my head instantly. Please, Lord, don't send me back. I can't go back after this. I can't live in that broken world knowing this peace exists. He looked at me with such compassion that I started to weep. He reached out his hand, touching my shoulder. The touch wasn't physical. It was deeper. It reached into my soul. I know your pain, he said softly, but you have a mission. My children have forgotten me. Many hearts have grown cold. You must tell them what you have seen. You must remind them that I am still here. As he spoke, I saw flashes of people, faces I didn't recognize. Men, women, children from all over the world. Some were crying. Some were praying. Others were lost in despair. Then, I saw them hearing the message he was sending through me, and I saw hope return to their eyes. The darkness in their hearts began to lift. That was when I realized my purpose wasn't just to survive, it was to awaken. I tried to speak again, but my words came out as a whisper. How will I know what to say? He smiled. You won't, but I will give you the words when the time comes. Just speak from love, speak from truth. And then, before I could respond, the light around us began to fade. The warmth that had embraced me started to drift away. Panic rose inside me. Wait, please don't leave me, I cried. I am with you always, he said, even when you cannot see me. Then, everything changed in an instant. The peace, the music, the brilliance, gone. I felt as though I was being pulled backward through a tunnel, faster and faster. The light shrank into a single point behind me, and with a sudden jolt, I fell. Pain exploded through my body, sharp, heavy, unbearable. I gasped for air that burned my lungs. I could hear people shouting, sirens wailing, someone crying, "She's breathing, she's back." My eyelids felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. I wanted to go back to that light, to that love, but I couldn't. The weight of the world had returned. The pain, the noise, the gravity of being human again. I opened my eyes to a blur of lights in the hospital ceiling. My chest hurt. My body felt crushed. A nurse's voice echoed somewhere beside me. "Stay with us, Emily. You're going to be okay." Okay. The word felt strange. I wasn't okay. I was forever changed. I had seen eternity, and now I was back in time, trapped in flesh and bone, carrying something too great to explain. In the days that followed, I drifted between worlds. One foot still in heaven, the other back on earth. I would wake up in tears, longing for his presence. Every heartbeat reminded me of his words. "They are not ready." It became impossible to ignore. I knew then that I had to speak, to tell what I saw, even if people doubted me, mocked me, or called me crazy, because the message wasn't mine. It was his. The light that touched me was still alive inside me, burning with one purpose, to reach hearts before it was too late. And so, I began to write, to speak, to share. Every time I closed my eyes, I could still feel his voice whispering through my soul. "Do not fear the darkness. Be the light that guides others through it." That became my mission, my reason to live again. Angdi, if you were sent back from the edge of eternity with one message to give the world, what would it be? Write it in the comments. Your words might carry the hope someone else is praying for tonight. When I finally returned home from the hospital, everything felt different. The same streets, the same furniture, the same routines, but I was no longer the same person. My body healed slowly, but my soul was restless, as though heaven had placed a fire inside me. Every night I lay awake, hearing his words over and over. "They are not ready." At first I tried to ignore it. How could I explain something so extraordinary? People would think I was imagining it, or that the accident had left me confused. But the images of what I had seen, the 3 days of darkness, the angels guarding homes, the deceiver mimicking loved ones, wouldn't leave me. They were etched into my heart like a scar that glowed instead of bled. One evening, sitting at my kitchen table, I opened a blank notebook. My hands trembled as I began to write everything. The light, the tunnel, his face, his words, the visions. Tears stained the pages. I wasn't writing a story. I was writing a plea for people to wake up before it's too late. As I wrote, I realized something. The message wasn't about fear. It wasn't about panic. It was about mercy. Jesus hadn't shown me those visions to terrify me. He had shown them to call his children back home. He wanted them to know that even in the deepest darkness, his light will never leave those who trust him. So, this is my message to you. The reason I am telling you all of this now. If you're reading these words, it's not an accident. You are here for a reason. The world is distracted, rushing and full of noise, but God is still speaking. He is still calling, and his mercy is still open. The 3 days of darkness I was shown are not meant to destroy, but to awaken. They are a warning, but also a promise that light will return, and those who cling to faith will be protected. I'm not a preacher. I'm not perfect. I'm a mother, a wife, a nurse, an ordinary woman who died and was sent back with an extraordinary message. I have no interest in fame, only in obedience. If you feel a stirring in your heart as you read this, that is not me. That is him. Listen to it. Here's what I now believe with every fiber of my being. Prepare your heart, not just your home. Pray with your family. Teach your children to call on his name. Live with forgiveness. Live with love. Because when darkness comes, whether it is literal or spiritual, only his light will guide you through. I don't know when the 3 days will come. Jesus didn't give me a date. He gave me a warning. And warnings are gifts. They are second chances. When I close my eyes now, I still see his face. I still feel his hand on my heart. And I still hear his final words to me as I left the light. Tell them I am real. Tell them my mercy is still open. Tell them they are not ready, but they can be. This is why I speak. This is why I share. Because the darkness will not have the final word. Love will. Light will. He will. And so I leave you with this question, not as a threat, but as an invitation. If everything stopped tonight, if the world went dark tomorrow, would your heart be ready? Write your answer in the comments. Your words may be the spark that ignites hope in someone else's heart.